Any nays? Great. All right. Hi, everybody. I am going to get started just because of time. I know I've been given the directive to pause and stop around 2:25. Let you guys jump up and down, do some wall presses, jumping jacks, etc. before you join your 2:30 presentation. So thank you so much for joining me today. I'm super excited always to be asked to do this and to see new faces. I get very siloed into my group of like PPT folks. And I always say, if you're a middle school regular ed teacher and you haven't seen me in a while, you are lucky. So thank you guys so much for joining. I recognize a lot of you. Obviously, I see a lot of my own staff, which is always very nice when you guys want more time together. I won't put you on the spot, but certainly if anybody, including regular ed folks, specialists, has anything to offer, contribute, ideas, please pop on. The worst thing is to just talk at people and have them glaze over and zone out. That's what we try not to do to our kids and our students. I will try not to do it to you. So let's have an organic conversation. When I was asked to do this presentation, the spirit and the theme was around really how to navigate the current landscape with accommodations and modifications, which are always a favorite topic. It's always a topic du jour, and certainly I think the COVID climate has in some way added some significant challenges to what we're doing with accommodations and modifications. But because I'm an eternal optimist, I'm also going to say that it has also provided, in my opinion, some great tools and great opportunities for universal design. So that is kind of the spirit of our message today, as I know many are feeling very overwhelmed by just the number of unique learners, what we've been tasked to do for unique learners, the individualization involved. And my message, if you're going to take one thing, I'm putting it in now because I think I have your brain's full attention for like 7.5 minutes, is that a lot of these accommodations really truly are universal design and best practice. And you might disagree or hate me for saying that, but I hope by the end of this presentation, you'll feel a little bit better about some of the things that you can do to kind of work smarter, not harder, and take all of those plans and do some global umbrella universal accommodations that you can just know with confidence you're hitting with all your learners. So that being said, I would like to just have Lynette Kashke wave at the screen. Lynette is our district IT specialist, superhero. She has amazing ideas. She knows way more than I do in the tech world around tools to use, accessibility, apps, programs. And the good news is in the 20 plus years I've been doing this has come so far. So that will be another part of my elevator pitch later on, is that for those of us that have been doing this for a while, I can remember back to the day where we used to have to do visual accommodations on a copier and try to blow stuff up, and inevitably the paper would turn the wrong way and I'd get half a word on a page, and you're trying to do this while you're trying to get ready for a lesson. Things really have gotten a lot easier in a lot of ways. So this presentation is about positivity and tools. I'm not going to have you all introduce yourself. It's not because I don't think you're all amazing, but just in the spirit of time. Okay, it looks like we have a variety of staff here, from people services, regular ed, specialists, related service folks. So welcome, everybody. I am going to flip into presenting mode, which means I'm not going to be able to see you anymore. So what I will try to do, we will definitely have pauses for comments, and I'll pop back to my Brady Bunch screen so I can see your faces. If you're afraid you're going to lose a thought, pop it in that chat bar. I'm going to remind everybody to mic themselves, and we will get rolling. So hopefully you can all see my screen. Resume slideshow. Huh. Well, that stinks. Let's try that again. All right, I'm going to open that again. I don't know why it was frozen. It's because I'm presenting, that's why. Ta-da. Jeff, I just saw your face. Can you just unmic and tell me, yes, you can see the slideshow?
Yes.
Great, thanks, Jeff. I don't know why it's a split screen. If you guys see that, we're just going to deal with it. It was doing it earlier too, so great. So today's topic is about accommodations and modifications. We're going to be focusing a lot on accommodations today and that universal design approach, but really how to maximize your skills. You know, we have this perfect marriage in an ideal world when the special ed teacher and the regular teacher have time to collaborate and really pick apart content, with the regular teacher being, you know, kind of the captain of the content team and the special ed teacher being the captain of differentiation. Hopefully today's presentations will help build your confidence so you can party in both of those worlds. I do want to start really quickly. I am getting a tiny bit of feedback. I don't know if everybody can just check that they're muted. I always begin with accommodation versus modification. And I apologize for those of you who think you have this down. I'm sure you do, but it's a really important place to start because I do still hear those words interchanged synonymously, and they're actually quite different. As regular ed teachers, for those of you in the crowd who teach regular ed, you're looking right now at about a 15% population on average rate of students with IEPs, and a slightly lower than that average for students with 504 plans. Regardless, for your students with IEPs, they live in both of these worlds, right? Students with IEPs are entitled legally to both accommodations and modifications. One of the big line in the sand moments between 504s and IEPs is that word modification. So it's really important to understand the difference. An accommodation is a tool in a toolkit, right? So again, if I'm a special ed student, I can certainly have accommodations. If I'm a 504 student, that's really what my 504 is all about. I am legally entitled to very specific tools in my toolkit that are hopefully determined based upon data as helpful and necessary in order to give me a fair shake or fair access to the curriculum. Just a reminder or a seed to plant that, you know, both of the plans, 504 falls under ADA, which is the Americans with Disabilities Act. Modifications fall under IDEA. IEPs fall under the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act. Both of those certainly are legally binding plans, and they have a lot in common. And I just want everybody, again, to make sure they understand that even though as teachers we might feel that a child doesn't need something, if it's in a plan, it is legally mandated. And we're going to get back to that at the end, you know, the kind of, I don't really think this kid needs this, and what to do with that. But the tools, the accommodations are determined by a 504 team. Those are your things like extended time, chunking long-term assignments, presenting visuals, graphic organizers, completing and doing a study guide, access to teacher notes. I know sometimes it feels like that list is quite lengthy, and we're going to live in that a little bit today, and try to help you pick apart some of that and approach it where it's manageable. So those are tools in a toolkit. Certainly can be adjusted over time. A lot of kids are eligible for 504s. We really don't gatekeep that like we do with IEPs, because if a student has an outside diagnosis or a history of an IEP, they are already legally entitled to a 504. And I will tell that to parents all day long. The piece that we still maintain and need to really hold on to control of is what actually goes in that plan. I will be completely transparent with you. I have a son who has an IEP, and I will say I say to the team in Glastonbury all the time, I would rather see two things out of that entire IEP, out of that entire document, two things that my son really needs that are implemented with fidelity so that they're sustainable and that he can access them. We get a lot of that Chinese menu selection still, where I think parents, right, who we love to partner with, but sometimes feel like more is better. Oh my gosh, preferential seating, that sounds great. Extended time, of course, who wouldn't want more time? Chunking long-term assignments, yes, please. That's where, again, we'll loop back to this. We really want to do data-driven decision-making around what those plans look like and really determine what the kiddo needs. I think most of my teachers on this call would attest to, if you have a class of 20 and you have 7 kids with plans, and those 7 plans include an entire laundry list of accommodations, and some of them, really maybe aren't necessary, you get very bogged down in those very quickly. And I think at the end of the day, the individual student can lose out instead of just having 2 tools that really work. Modifications are when we're changing the curriculum. Right? We have decided that the student, A, is eligible for specialized instruction, but B, they're entitled to actual changes in content, actual changes in curricular expectations. This is where, and I know I'm dating myself and I'm pulling a binder off the shelf that people maybe haven't blown off and dusted off in a while. I love UBD. I love understanding by design, because this is where modification, I think, really becomes a tangible. When you start at the end of your unit and you determine what all your learners are going to learn, and then you look at your exceptional learners and you determine, what do I really need to see based on the fact that this young person reads 3 years below grade level, or based on the fact that they struggle with math, facts, and fluency, what are the takeaways for this child? That is truly when you're individualizing your modifications. So that is the difference between those two. So I went through the IEP, and I did pretty lengthy audit of a bunch of middle school IEPs, and tried to gather kind of a top 10 to 12 list of the heaviest or most common accommodations, right? So let's look closely at this. You're a teacher, you get these IEPs, you're reading through them, you're looking through your 504s, copy of notes, supplementary visuals, homework list, study guides, chunking assignments. You guys can all read, so I'm just going to pause. Take a quick look at that list. I would venture to say that 90% of this list, if not more, if not honestly 100% of it, can be universal design, right? So copy of notes, this is a really common one we see a lot. And I think that, teachers in today's day and age, this is one of those benefits of technology, the Google Classroom platform. I'm seeing a lot of you do this already. When an IEP says a student gets a copy of notes, right? You can do that for all of your learners. You can do whether it's PowerPoint, whether you're just doing Google Notes, Google Classroom, you can have a folder in your Google Classroom that all kids have access to, no matter who has it or who doesn't have it as an accommodation. There it is. That's crossed off your list. So you're not worried about, wait, did I provide this to Johnny? Because Johnny has that accommodation. Sally also has it. Peter doesn't. I would just argue that you can post that. I would argue that for each one of these, right? So when you're talking about supplementary visuals, what is that? I'm giving a math unit. We're doing the Pythagorean theorem. I have my formulas up there. They're up on the board. Then maybe the kids are doing an independent or asynchronous learning activity. I'm going to have that formula as a supplementary visual with an example for all kids, so that they're not just getting it auditorily. That's a supplementary visual. Again, that can be a universal design. Homework list, I don't think there's any teams that I'm familiar with that are not posting homework right now. You're done. Cross it off the list. Those of you that are ELA teachers or specialists, graphic organizers, our kids are in middle school. Again, I think most of them need and benefit from graphic organizers. So I think you understand what I'm getting at. Take a look at these. Access to technology, I joke with Lynette about this sometimes. I don't even know why that's still on there. We don't deny anybody access to technology. If we determine that a kid needs it at home in school and they don't have devices at home, we get them a Chromebook that they can sign out, and we have a form for that. Posting routines, clear expectations, checking work in progress. Oh my goodness, I would hope so. Those are best practices for good instruction. So I think, anything that you can do universally, that you can cross off your list and say with confidence to any parent, this shouldn't be something you're getting caught off guard with in a meeting, because you do it. Posted routines every day. Yep, every day I put up there on my Google board what the expectation is for the lesson, what my tangible or consumable is at the end for each kid. Everybody has access to that. There's no gotcha there. right? Everybody is doing that. When we look at specific accommodations around seating, I always ask folks, do you know what that means for each student? It doesn't always necessarily mean up front, right? It might be away from distractions. It might be near the door. Sometimes we have kids on 504 plans or IEPs who have tummy issues. They get to go to the bathroom frequently. To be as disruptive, as least disruptive as possible, they sit near the door. This is how you just get to know your kiddos, and in understanding what that needs. I had a teacher say to me years ago, I have 15 kids in my room who have preferential seating. I can't give them all the front center desk. And I think that's just that checking in on what does it really mean, and where does that child need to be sitting. Extended time, I think that COVID actually has helped this a little bit. We don't have kids right in front of us. We are not quite as bound to the need to get up and get out and move. You have kids for a huge stretch right now with the block schedule. Because things are online now, it's a lot easier than trying to, I think, have that piece of paper that you're sending a kid off to a study hall with. They can hit pause, they can write you a note in Google Classroom, and they can pick that back up either later in the day after 1:30 during their afternoon time, or even just during some asynchronous time in the morning. So I think, again, you have to understand what the extended time looks like. If you dig into your accommodations and there's not a lot of, there aren't breadcrumbs there for you as a teacher, I would ask your special ed teacher. I know in every PPT that I sit in, when extended time comes up, I remind folks, and the team does a really good job of remembering when I'm not there, I think, to substantiate it, right? Like, what does that mean? We usually say time and a half. Because no deadline at all is usually not good for anybody. And having work pile up and then it's all due at the end of the quarter is not conducive to anybody's learning style. So now the showstoppers. We do have speech to text available for all of our students. I am going to do a very quick demo, and then I'm going to be turning it over to Lynette, who is going to be showing you some very cool read aloud features. So they're called showstoppers because this is what I probably hear the most about, right? How am I supposed to have a reader for these kids, or it used to be called a scribe, right? That the kids are scribing. So the good news is, in your Google Doc platform, which everybody has, I was able to do this. I am not always the most tech savvy person. You're able to very easily go in and use the microphone feature. So if you go in, why am I not seeing it, Lynette? Oh, because it's under tools, sorry. So you're gonna have, this is right under your toolbar on your Google Classroom. So if you're a student and you have a scribe or a speech to text feature, this is already on their Chromebooks. This doesn't require Lynette, doesn't require anything fancy, other than maybe a 30-second tutorial like I'm giving you right now. So as you can see, as I'm speaking, the computer is scribing what I'm saying aloud. For those of you who are familiar with Dragon, it used to take a lot of training, a lot of voice recognition work and practice. This is a piece of cake. As you can see, I'm just talking normally, and the computer is very accurate. I haven't told the computer to put any punctuation in yet, so that is one piece of training you need to do with your students. All you do, just like most of you do when you're dictating a text, is tell your computer what to do, period. So to start a new sentence, comma, I might decide to add an exclamation point because I'm excited, right? So again, pretty self-explanatory. That is something that everybody can access. It's a great quick tool. The read aloud feature is something I love to recommend to teachers. You can do this for your quizzes, tests, reading passages, instructions, as long as you're cut and pasting. If you're not a teacher who lives in Google Docs, I'm going to turn it over to Lynette real quick so she can explain. I will show you just before Lynette starts that we do have this right in our presentation. There are, Go ahead, Lynette. There are instructions in the PowerPoint, and I'll show you guys after.
Okay, so would you like me to go ahead and present now?
That would be great. So I will stop presenting, and that should open up your ability to do that.
Okay, great. Thank you. So the text-to-speech is one of the most needed things out there right now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to access it. Let's see. How do I wonder why it's not letting me get onto my, hold on a minute. Let's see. I'm going to present. There we go. Great. So you can see my screen now. I'm in Google Docs and I have a Google document open. So all students should have access to the Google Read and Write tab, the toolbar here. This is the toolbar. Not all students have access to all of the tools. All students have the free version. And the way that you access the free version of the Google Read and Write is if you can't see the purple puzzle piece in your taskbar, you can go to manage your extensions and you can pin it, because everybody has access to it on a West Hartford device. And any student that has a Google West Hartford account can have access to the Google Read and Write. So if you don't see the puzzle piece, you go into the little black puzzle piece that says extensions and you can pin it. Now, when the student has full version and they get that through an AT consult with me to address specific goals and objectives, you know, for writing and literacy, the puzzle piece will be purple. If they don't have the purple one, that means that they would just have access to the text-to-speech, and all students should have access to it. So when the student goes in and they click on the puzzle piece, the toolbar comes down, and this is the text-to-speech, and that's the play button. And so it plays it, and while it's reading it, it highlights the sentence in yellow and each word in blue. There's a pause. So when you press pause, it pauses it, and then they can go back and they can continue reading and then press stop. Now, there's also a way to customize the speech under options. So they can go and they can choose the voice. And there's all different voices. So if a student has a Spanish class and the words are in Spanish and they want to read it with the Spanish inflection, they could pick either Monica or Jorge. Then there are 4 United States ones. There's Allison, Ava, Samantha, and Tom. So they can choose any of the voices that they prefer that will help them to be able to pay attention to the text better. And then you can also have them go in and they can change how fast or slow that it reads. So that way it will be at the speed that they can most follow. So that is the text-to-speech in the Google Read and Write. There are other extensions as well. There is one that the district has, and it's called Speak It. And when you use the Speak It, unfortunately, what that does is that'll just start reading everything, and there is no way to start it or stop it at any point in the document. It just will continue reading, and if you stop it, it will start it all over again. So it's not as user-friendly. But those are options that we do have for the text-to-speech in the district at this time. Any questions?
I have a question, actually. It's Jen Sansusi. Hi.
Hi.
So is this something that, like, I don't think all students are aware. Would it be, is there any thinking to kind of having like a little tutorial or roll out something universal to introduce this to all students? Because I could see doing it in my class, but that doesn't mean, you know, the students in the next class get, but I could see where obviously these are really helpful tools. Is there any thinking from, I don't know, the powers that be about having like a uniform tutorial or explanation?
That's a very good question.
Yeah, I think that's great, Jen. I think the best way to do that might be just like we do some advisory activities. Maybe we could roll it out in either an advisory or an ELA platform where we're kind of knocking it off in one chunk and knowing that all kids have been able to see that tutorial. I can tell you that, I navigated it through YouTube a little bit. I met with Lynette for like, I don't know, 3 minutes on Monday just to get my purple puzzle piece. Because of time, I can't believe how fast this has gone. I will tell you that let me just present real quickly. Just so you guys know, I just said the directions are in the PowerPoint. If you want to email me, if you want a copy of it, the directions are pretty simple. We were able to do it really quickly. I've been using it since just to kind of play with it. But as Lynette said too, there are some bonus features, but even those are available. Just to show you guys real quick before you have to go. There's a translate feature. So if you're writing a letter home to parents and you want to translate it, you literally just go to Tools, Translate Document. You choose a language. I was having so much fun. Just look at this. Hopefully you guys can see my screen. Hawaiian, cool, right? So there's so many features to this. If you just give it time to play with it for a few minutes. If you have a welcome back letter, I couldn't not find a language. Everything from Urdu to Farsi to Hawaiian. So again, I think this opportunity is certainly in the Google platform there. The pieces that Lynette was talking about, the add-ons that she, again, as long as it's an IEP, she can basically, we have a certain number of licenses that we purchase. There's a Braille feature. It's pretty phenomenal. The Google platform is pretty extensive. So the universal pieces you have are the speech to text I showed you, the read aloud that Lynette just showed you, and then that translate feature. Those are on all platforms.
Feature, Emily, is just a one-word translator right now.
I just did I've been doing whole paragraphs.
With the translate feature, you've been doing a whole paragraph. That must be a new feature because up until recently, it's only been a one-word translator. So I'm really excited about that.
Yeah, it even translated. It even translated like a chart that I sent home for parents, like a progress report. It translated the whole thing.
I haven't had to use it, so I haven't seen it lately. Thank you for letting me know.
It's working great. You can do letters, you can do reports. I mean, it's pretty phenomenal. So just to wrap up real quick on on the presentation side of things, when we talk about the accommodations, if you are feeling as a teacher that a child's not accessing them or they're really not warranted, take some of that data and bring it back to the team. And again, we are legally obligated to offer accommodations. We cannot force the horse to drink out of the proverbial water. I have to live in that space a lot. You document it. That's why I encourage you to just do those accommodations as a universal design. Your notes are available on Google Doc. They're there. I have a Google Classroom set up. My notes are there. I have a folder. I have a folder of graphic organizers. I have a folder of tricks and tips. I have a folder of my notes. I have a folder of supplementary visuals. Doing the legwork up front on that and then using it for all your units once you build your bank. Again, that's part of that kind of working through that lens instead of reinventing the wheel each time. So I would suggest even using that IEP list I just shared with you guys really as your tier 1 intervention for all, right? Universal design. Just remembering that UBD when you're working on modifications. I've heard a lot about, I don't know why specifically in science, but that there used to be like 3 science tests and somehow they've disappeared into the great vast of unknown. It's fine to have leveled tests so that you're not reinventing the wheel every time. And then, I think working with your department to share the load, if you guys have, formative assessments that you're all using and you've been expected to have some of these benchmarks, work together as a team and come up with some of your leveling, trying to, again, work smarter, not harder. And then my final piece is just differentiation doesn't mean special education. It's really interesting. I've had a lot of folks say to me, oh my gosh, I need to provide all these tools for this kiddo in order for him to access class. That's, again, so much of that is good instruction. I think sometimes it gets lost in the sauce because of the stress for child find, et cetera. But if you're differentiating, you're doing what you need to do for good instruction. So I know we went over. I apologize. I'm always available for questions. If you guys you know, if you want to email me separately, etc. But thank you guys so much for those of you signing off and saying goodbye. And for those of you just signing on, we'll switch the tides here.